reading or hearing third hand. So that's how I do these. So thank y'all for coming. I'll tell you a little bit about me. My mother is the one that brought us down here in the 70s. We fell in love with the place vacation. Coast Guard, college, came back down here, met my wife. Kids started to go to school. We left. Of course, we came back. We've been back 10 years. And for work, I do commercial development. So specifically, RV parks, storage facilities. So that means find the land, build it, operate it, manage it, and sometimes sell it. So I have to be responsible for my investors' money. So every expenditure has to be looked at. What's the return on investment? Is it going to increase the betterment for the staff and for the customers? So we take the business approach, and hopefully to the city, what's our return on investment? And is it a wise investment for the investors, which is in your case, the stakeholders are the citizens? So Les Bill got frustrated and woke up after Harvey. After Harvey happened, there was a lot of land grabs. And to be honest with you, we really thought ourselves about investing in property. Some people couldn't afford to rebuild, they were slowing off their business. So I can tell you there's been a lot of real estate transactions, and some people have a different vision on how we want to move forward with that land. Do we want denser development, which would be more taxes per square foot? Going vertical dense development will return you more taxes per square foot, more heads and beds, more shoppers for the businesses, which isn't a bad thing. But there's also part of us that said we know this is coming, but we still want to keep what brought us all here. I don't see, hopefully we don't have anybody that lives in other coastal towns that are already overdeveloped in our opinion. So we've all chosen here. So I think you all align with the reason why we're at Rockport. We know we can't keep it forever like it is, but it's not that far off than it was in the 70s. I mean, it's really not that far off from what I saw when I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Of course, things change, and I accept that. But what else got me involved was the more I started going to meetings and I was trying to learn, a lot of my questions to city council, they were sincere questions. Like, I want to know about this, and I want to know about this. And I'm not over exaggerating, but Scott Hine uses whack-a-mole, the little thing that pops up. If you stuck your nose up and asked a question, you got whacked on the head. And I started immediately getting treated badly by people from my neighborhood, my friends, people that were in my group at the time. Well, now you're a hater, I said, well, no, I'm just asking questions. You know, I'm trying to understand. And I know it's hard, and sometimes I come across as abrasive, but there is a small group of people in this town that like things the way they are, and they like to be in control of things, and they don't feel people like me have a right to ask a question. And what started the petition, I went to a meeting, and she was there, and I went to the county commissioner's meeting, and it went from a 2-story at 12 million to a 3-story in one meeting like that, and they voted for the debt like that. I raised a question like, whoa, what happened? And I was told, I don't have time for the silly little comments from people like you. And that, my friends, upset me. And that is what really, I'm not looking at a personality, but if somebody comes and pushes me down, I stand taller. And then I noticed when I stood taller, Candace, where you at? Right there, Candace, Jeff, a lot of those people came behind me. And this whole group of people started asking questions. If you haven't been to city council meetings, you should come to one. There's 20, 30, 40, 50 people at some of these meetings. Sometimes 20 people are talking at these meetings. And we didn't have that before. So, I'm not trying to say what else I can tell you before you ask your questions. Why did I run for mayor? I never thought I was going to run for mayor. I was actually even taunted by people. You know, you're just like to complain. Why don't you throw your hat in the ring and see what it's like? You know what? I did it. So it took me. I didn't know I was going to do it, but I did. And I did it for one reason. Tim Jayroe is a very nice guy, 29 years police chief, and he knocked on a few doors in my neighborhood, including mine. My wife signed this petition, and the story he told was, I'm running because Kevin Caruth and Pat Rios wanted me to. And then I realized that nobody else was going to run. Bob, Cunningham, my choice, and a couple other people that didn't want to run. So we were looking at yet another decades and decades of uncontested mayoral races. And when that happens, We don't have these events. We don't have forums where issues are discussed. So I said, to beat Tim Jayroe is going to be a hard task. But if I at least run, now we have an election. Now we have choices, and we have a platform to start talking about our ideas. And hopefully, Mr. Jayroe, if he wins, he's hearing y'all's concerns. So the reason why I ran was to give y'all a choice and to listen to you. I'm not running for myself. I'm actually running to represent y'all. And I don't know how to say that over and over, is I really want to listen to the citizens and everybody I meet. Tell me your concerns, because I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I know collectively we all can become a better town if we listen to each other.
That's good for you.
So with that, I know there are some people here that are really on the fence and there's some people that aren't. So I would like to start with people that are on the fence if they have questions and want to get some answers. So who wants to go first?
I was playing cards at the women's club, and the women's club is very split. It's very back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Somebody brought up the DUI and the tax thing.
Okay, so the DUI was 24 years ago.
Ooh, shame on you.
I know. Shame on you. I didn't dodge from it. Past elected officials had DUIs. Some have had 7. But they've never once answered it face-to-face at a debate, a forum, or online. And I've answered it 20 times. Mistake. A lot of us have been there. We learn from it. We move on. Tax liens. In Colorado, I closed up a business in 2010. We talked about that a little bit. I didn't tell the Department of Revenue that I sold the business, Jack B. Alarm. And I didn't know this for like 3-4 years when I moved from Colorado to here. But Colorado went on what's called estimated sales taxes based on your previous filings. And I was supposed to either file a 0 return or I was supposed to file a close a Department of Revenue account. Now, I was the only marijuana security provider. So the Department of Revenue, they were all about revenue when they did marijuana in Colorado. 37% sales tax on it. To do the security, the cameras, the alarms, you had to go to the Department of Revenue and be licensed as a marijuana security professional, following their guidelines. I didn't close that account up, so they went by my past filings, and I don't know, it was like $700-800 they said I owed, but by the time taxes, or penalties, and then collection agency fees, and then legal fees, and then going to get the lien, and when it hit my doorstep, it was like $5,000. Like, I called them, I was like, I sent them paychecks. I was in Texas working during these times, and you're talking to a collection agency. And back and forth, at that point in my life, and it probably was a mistake, I said, well, you know, I'm in Texas now, and I have a home. So I just said, if y'all won't work with me.
He's in Glenwood Springs, and I get a dividend from Glenwood Springs, and my taxes get all screwed up because of Colorado.
But they were impossible to deal with at the time, and I am going to go look at it now, but it's not tax money I collected that I owe. It was a mistake of not knowing to shut down an account. And if you've ever had to deal with the government, once they get into collections, it's hard.
Can I comment on that? So I'm a CPA, and I've also had multiple businesses. And the same thing happened to me in Texas, because I had a business and had a sales tax thing, and then it shut down, and I got so busy with life and things that are going on, and I didn't have internet. You know, we moved way out into the country, and I just couldn't do things, so I didn't file. I did not know they were doing estimated. And this was on payroll taxes. I think it wasn't sales tax in Texas. They would just send me, oh, well, since last quarter you had, whatever, then we're going to assume it is this one, ching, ching, ching. And I was gone, didn't get the mail, didn't have anything. And like months later, I'm like,
baby,
what? My God, this isn't even real. So I had to go through all sorts of hoops just to say, prove this wasn't real. But I can see how that so easily happens, especially when you're moving and doing things.
Let me say something too. I don't think there's a person in this room that hadn't had some sort of hiccup in their life, whether it was business, legal, whatever. It may not be you, it may be your kid. And 23 years ago, if your kid made a mistake and he's trying to run for president of the United States, are we going to really listen to this? Or are we going to talk about what the man's going to do for president? Or what are we going to do for this city? That's my position, is my gosh, every one of us has got something,
And may I say something?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, I'm his
That's my
wife, Norma.
Thank you,
anyways,
Norma. I know.
and the man that he was then and made his mistake, we were young, you know, make your mistake, he is not today. I'm telling you, he's changed.
Well, we're here to see what he'll do for Rockport and keep the mistakes from stopping because they're, what, 4.5 million disappeared? Or just magically appeared?
I want to say something, and I come from a slightly different background. My family helped settle this area, you know, hundreds or so years ago, but we were the inland dwellers. We were the branch that moved inland to Sin, and then to Austin. But I lived in Port Aransas for more than 20 years. And I moved away because of what happened there. And one of the things that I saw happen there, which I'm hearing from you, I don't mean to point at you, but
No, I'm here to learn.
I understand, but what I'm hearing you say really causes me concern, because I saw a mayor and a really good man who named Claude, I can't think of his last name now, who was good friends with my husband, go through being accused of stealing from the city, being, and then someone went digging for dirt and discovered that he hadn't, I don't know the legal term, but processed the estate of his father, and he was living in the house. And I guess the taxes were still the father's taxes, which would have been much higher if it had been put into his name. What I'm saying is that there is an element in our societies that will go out and seek the things that they want to pull out and throw back into your face, just because they want to get what they want. And they will give you the image that you want to see. They have everything under wraps and where no one else can find it. You've got to ask yourself, when someone says dirty and ugly things about someone, why are they saying that? What is the purpose?
Christine, so here's, before I ran for office, I told my mother, who I don't like to disappoint, they're going to find two things when they dig on me. They're going to find a tax lien, they're going to find a DUI. And I told my wife, and then my kids, and everybody else, because it's affected all of them. You know, they didn't like seeing Daddy's picture up there. And I said, you know what? I'm guilty, I'll answer for it.
Yeah.
But I feel like this job and what I want to do for the city, it's worth going through that to get to where I think I need to do for the citizens. So I was willing to, knew it was coming. We talked about it, talked to my kids about it. It's okay. If that's the worst they're going to find on me, then I still feel like I can be an asset to the people. I'll go through it.
Well, you need a lot more to be president of this country.
Anyway,
A lot of work.
Let me put a finer point on it than Andrew will, or than Ray did in his campaign. The very same people who are raising issues about Andrew had no problem at all about Judge Mill's record. And I think it's well known in this community what a problem he had drinking. That was in that same, realm of youth, or at least was excused that way. And when the same people who supported Mills are now looking to throw dirt at Andrew, it's about throwing dirt and about trying to make some advantage and not about what they really believe.
Yeah.
And I want to add something too. I really like Tim Jayroe as a man. I've always liked him. And I don't know anything dirty about his past, and if I did, I wouldn't bring it up because it's not the kind of thing I think is that interesting in a campaign. What I do know is what he's saying in his campaign, and I'm interested in that. And I don't know if all of you guys are on his email list, but I am. And the last email I got from him said he had 5 or 6 or 7 reasons for running for mayor. Most of them made sense to me, but one of them really concerned me, and that was he went to city council meetings and was really upset at how rude the citizens were to the city officials. Now, in the first place, I've seen those meetings, and I don't think the rudeness was from the citizens to the city officials. And in the second place, even if it was, I think that shows a man with his head in the wrong place.
That's the foundation of our country, is a town hall meeting, and
The last thing we need is ways to keep the citizens better squelched at public meetings.
And I'm on his email list too, but I never gave him my email address. So I know how he could have gotten yours, but I think the city is opening its files to him, and he put me on his list, and I had never. And then it should be open to Andrew too, to email everybody on the city's list. That comes from the citizens to be heard for.
That's scary, actually. He found my ranch email, which, you know, is only, I don't know how he got it.
Anyway,
Which
so
I think is through the
who's
city
got questions
records.
on
Anyway.
the issues that are going to, we've got past that, I had a dash of that. But the issues that this town is facing,
What?
this development.
Let me say one more thing about, and this one's about Andrew, and it is about an issue. I was on the commissioner's court when we approved the bond for, the notice in the newspaper about our intention to borrow money for the courthouse. And I was as horrified as anybody when the plan sort of ballooned from 2 stories to 3 in the space of one 10-minute period, and with no explanation. It was crazy. But at the time I thought, I can't fight City Hall. I only have 1 vote out of 5. I lose all my votes. Whatever, it's going to happen. I was just feeling very fatalistic and defeatist about it. Get on the phone with Andrew afterward, and he said, I went and read the notice in the newspaper, and the very last paragraph says, if you don't like this and you're a citizen, did you know you can petition to stop it and make them put it on a ballot and let people vote? Well, I never noticed that. I mean, I'm on the commissioner's court and I'm a lawyer. Did I see that? No. Andrew noticed it. And not only did he notice it, he didn't just notice it and call me up and complain about it. He said, I guess I'll just go do a petition. And he did. And in a few weeks, he had enough votes to force this thing onto the ballot.
Excellent.
That's
And it wasn't about stopping at City Hall. People ask me, it was about
that was the
letting us
courthouse.
vote.
Yes.
Right. It was the courthouse, same thing with City Hall. But exactly, he wasn't trying to stop the construction project. What he wanted was for the voters, the citizens, to vote on it. Well, that's the kind of person I want to see in office.
Tell us about tax notes for the city hall.
Well, we did the same, she asked about tax notes for the City Hall. And again, it wasn't about to stop the City Hall, it was about let the citizens vote on it. And the reason why that's important, if I want to do something, and get my group of 4 council people over here, we can just do it. That's the way this country is. If I want to do it right, I need to scope my project in a position where I can sell it to the citizens. It's easier to sell a backroom deal to 4 people and we just get done. But if I want to do it the right way, I got to scope this project, and the school district have to face that with their scope, that I've got to sell it to the citizens. So that what that forces the government to do is to really pick out the wants versus needs, cost versus affordability, debt versus what we can afford, that they're gonna have to bring it to the masses. So the whole deal with the City Hall again was, let us vote on it. And we turned to them. And it was valid, and it was certified. And then we used the term, if the governors declared a disaster, which they did, Harvey, it lets you loophole that go into the ballot and pass emergency tax notes, which we knew at the time we couldn't afford, and they said we could afford this 10-year tax notes, 3% interest, but it was a balloon where the first couple of years were 100,000, 100,000, 200,000, and down the road the payments were 4 million, 5 million. So it's a balloon. Who in the right mind balloons debt when you have hurricane interest lows 2 years out? When you have a Democratic presidency and everything's going up, you don't balloon a note, you lock that interest in. So 2 months ago, we had to refinance it. We refinanced that 10-year tax notes to 17-year tax notes at 4 and 5% interest on the years. If they just took it to the citizens in 2011, it would have been a vote 2 months after the petition, I believe, September, October, November, November 2020 election. We could have locked in 20-year bonds, not spent $400,000 refinancing it. And in the same move, we refinanced that 2 months ago. We borrowed another 8.1 tax note. So we had to extend this tax note out further so we could slide this one in and say we can afford it. And it's ballooned, knowing that it's all the 8.1 million is ballooned the principal to the last 3 years of this tax note. In 4 years, we had to refinance that, but we got a tidal wave of balloons coming at us. And who knows what the interest rate's gonna be. But the city plays these games with your finances, and if you dare stand up and ask a question, they're gonna say, we'll listen to the financial expert. I'm like, oh, the bond salesman who just got $207,000 commission second time in 2 years, I mean.
Who told me he didn't get commission?
Yeah, he does.
Of course he does.
But anyway, so we start questioning some of these things, like, hey, why would we finance something knowing, and the mayor said we knew when we did this, we were gonna have to refinance it at a cost of $235,000 of taxpayer money, but we did it to avoid the citizens' vote. That's the only reason why they did it. They had the opportunity to put it on the ballot, and they didn't do it. So that was concerning with the tax vote. But it was never about stopping in City Hall. It was let us vote. And the city, and it makes people like me want to rise up and step up, but I just don't appreciate being ignored by the government. If the city, I believe in a representative government at the South Rockport neighbors. Jayroe said it was somebody help me.
Trustee.
A trustee.
Yeah.
So his idea is, and that's fine, we have different ideas, but it's a trustee relationship. Y'all elect me, trust me, I make the right decisions. As a representative government, whether I like this zoning plan or not, let's say I don't want to rezone this, but every neighbor in this neighborhood comes around and says we want this project, it's not my decision. I'm representing the citizens' views, so I have to side with the citizens' views over my own. What we currently have is, we know best, we don't have to listen to you, and I'm just a different form of government. I'd rather listen to y'all, seek your answers and your thoughts out, and use your wisdom. Knowing I'm not the smartest guy in the room, I'll say it every time. The smartest guy in the room, though, will surround himself with people smarter than y'all, and then when I leave here, I take credit for your knowledge you shared with me. That's how he's successful, that's how they do it, though. They surround themselves with smarter people, ask questions, learn from them, and they go implement, and then take the credit.
We're seeing generations of properties that families have had for multiple generations that are going to be sold and broken apart because of the spending that's been going on for 10 and 15 and 20 years with, like you said, all these balloons coming due. And this house is a great example next door, Barbara Kavanaugh. Her dad bought that house. He had a home across the street, and Barbara's dog got hit by a car. The dog was hit by a car. The father bought that home that day where his daughter didn't have to cross Fulton Beach Road. It's been here, they've owned it since the 40s. And they're gonna end up having to sell it because they can't afford the taxes on it. And there's lots of people that have their houses stapled to the courthouse steps because they can't afford taxes, they can't afford the mortgages, they can't afford, everything's being piled on. And that's what concerns me as a citizen. When we start breaking up the fabric of the community because, some development wants to come in, like 53 houses right here. I mean, come on. 20 houses maybe, or 10, right next to the beautiful O'Connor property back there. It's just, when you start building stuff that's out of character with the community, we're gonna look like South Beach, Florida. And this property will be worth $8 or $10 million and none of us will be here. Because we can't, I don't know, I don't have that kind of money. Maybe some of y'all do, but.
And really, you may not want to be here.
Yeah, we may not want to be
The
here.
traffic, the congestion, the conflict that happens between neighbors when you get that kind of congestion.
I had a question.
I just have a question. We moved here a year ago and we love Rockport, been coming to Rockport since I was in high school. And I have I've met a lot of people, however, but I've been challenged to find out what is going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The real issues. I want to be intelligent about my vote and who I support, and I'm not seeing much in the newspaper or online. How do you, if you won, how do you communicate and get that feedback from your constituents? Do you have a plan for that?
Right. So, first off, you made a great choice living here. We can pick apart little different things that we disagree with each other, but it doesn't mean that they love Rockport less than I love Rockport.
Yeah.
It's just we have different ideas. So the biggest task is going to be, and I've thought this over and over in my head as I'm reading some of the comments about me. The day I get elected is like, okay, we need to reset back pre-Harvey and undivide this community. There was a lot of division when we had a courthouse vote at the ballot, and we voted no, and they did it anyway. So we have to repair the poor communication we have. That means I don't care what you said about me. Sit down in my office, let's talk, let me hear what you want to do for this. So we have to take personal pride and feelings and put them aside. whether it's minor or big, or we're never gonna grow as a community. And I know for a fact that everybody that picked on their little thoughts or I've questioned them, it's not their desire, or it's not they love Rockport less, or they want something different. We just have different ideas on how to get to where we want Rockport to grow. And it's gonna be, even in your own family, you're gonna find that. Hey, my sister, and she would love a multi-use community with shopping and below it and a condo upstairs because that fits her lifestyle. You know, that's saying she'd do that because she's got a big house on the lot, but you're gonna find everybody's got, there's pluses and minuses to different types of development. And it's gonna appeal to some people, it's not gonna appeal to other people. I personally want to keep, if that comes, and it's going to come, I mean, you're not stopping some of this development. And the biggest thing I have is a tax abatement, and the city's doing it Tuesday. You do not need to give a developer, I'm gonna pick on you, yeah, I'll pick on you, Ms. Burke, because you asked a question. There's no reason to give you a 10-year property tax abatement if you're coming anyway. Because they're gonna have to pay for the sewer upgrade. We've got bonds coming next year, $25 million for infrastructure, water, sewer, roads. You're coming anyway, so why would I give the developer the tax break? When I built my house, I've heard the argument over and over, this undeveloped piece of property was bringing in this much money a year in taxes. So when we get a tax abatement, 10 years from now, we're gonna actually recapture something that's gonna be worth more money. Well, I have news for you. 4 years ago, the little piece of property in Harbor Oaks was bringing in $1,000 a year property taxes. I bought it, I created jobs, people built my house. I have a caretaker watching my mother-in-law right now. We have pest control, so we create jobs. And my little piece of property is bringing in $6,500 a year in taxes. So using that logic of it'll be worth more down the road would apply to every single one of y'all when you build a house. We're gonna turn property that wasn't worth much into more, but we don't get tax abatements. Certain people do. So if we needed to bring development here, then that's a commerce tax abatements or a tool that you need to attract development. When it's coming and knocking your door down, there's absolutely
steer development.
That's a part of, and the mayor has said it, and I've heard it repeated over and over, so it's a talking point. We want to, and they believe in this too, and y'all might, I don't. We want to be able to control who comes and where and with what, is why we're doing tax breaks, so we can control. And the last thing I want in the business community is a government controlling the free enterprise. So the tool is used to control our future economics.
Can I add to your comment a second? I was the 3rd Ward councilman, and Andrew was a citizen in Ward 3. He was not shy about picking up the phone or sending me text messages or emailing me in the middle of the night or in the middle of a council meeting, or immediately after a council meeting. We probably only agreed 50% of the time, if that. But he was persistent, he was reasoned, he knew why he believed what he believed, and he knew why he wanted his council person to do something different than what I was doing, or at least to move my decision in his direction. I'm sure he was the same with Wendy, who was his representative on the county level, and probably is doing the same with Pat Rousseau back here, who also is representative in this area. So contacting your representatives is an easy thing to do in a small community like ours. And I'd like, in that respect, to pull the, to take away the sense that Andrew is a negative person. I never thought Andrew was negative, even when he disagreed with me.
Hear, hear.
Because he understood why he had the position that he did. He argued it intelligently, and whether I agreed with him or not, he was a constituent who had great ideas, and I was the better for having the benefit of those ideas in decision making. So the idea that he is a negative person and only negative because he makes those comments is really just dirty fool.
So what I would do with my representatives for years is I'd ask them questions because I don't know the answers. And I was saying, I read this and I think this, what do you think? There's a lot of times they would educate me. And there was times I educated them, they just didn't listen. But at least they answered the phone call. At least they said, Andrew, what are your concerns? Today I've texted 3 city council people about the meeting that's coming Tuesday. And I do it every council meeting, and I'll just get up and speak. Well, I have a meet and greet tomorrow night, so I'll submit my comments. But that's valuable. It's valuable for the reps that I'm talking to today to hear our positions, because they're not the smartest person in the room. And they need to hear what you want, or they can go up there and, I don't know what my constituents want. So it's important that you don't be, there's a county judge right there. Ask them a question, I promise you he's gonna respond to you. So, yeah, they can contest that I was not argumentative or demeaning to them. And when they voted 100% against me, I didn't pick the phone up and say bad things about them. I have respect for them. So I have respect, they were honest, and it was, you know, a good cordial citizen representative relationship. Jeff had a question? Or Pat had a question?
I just wanted to make a statement, because actually what she asked was, how can she find out information? And you gave a lot of good information yourself, but you didn't really answer that question too much. Really, you need to take on the responsibility yourself.
Right.
And I'm excited that more people are going to city council meeting and more people are coming to commissioner's court. I used to live in Corpus Christi, and on occasion I would go to the school district meeting. I had to go to city council meeting. I was with the Convention Visitors Bureau, we were funded, so I was there a lot. But you go to some of those other meetings, and they're like, holy cow, who are you? You know, because usually there are only the same players at every meeting.
Yeah.
And people would come up to me, why are you here at the school board meeting? I am interested in education. Do you have children? No. I'm interested in education.
Right.
So, and there really isn't a good public platform,
Yeah.
I think, at this point in
I
time.
think so.
But
Yeah.
I mean, what Andrew was saying about reaching out and contacting
Right.
people,
Mm-hmm.
we are public service. Not everybody remembers that, but our phone numbers are public, our emails are public, and
But
I
I mean-
respond to anybody who contacts me.
One thing, I mean, I was in marketing and media for a long, long time ago. And I mean, I'm thinking more of like the masses. There's so many new people in Rockport and everything, like, you know, a monthly or a quarterly, you know, breakfast with the mayor or something like that.
Sign her
A town hall.
That's a great idea.
Just to find out what's going on, what are the issues.
We count on town hall.
I'm going to keep, I just haven't figured out how to Zoom thing, but I'm going to keep a Facebook page. And I don't know many that do. And I also want to have, within the limits of the city, if I win, with the limits of the city attorney, what can I do, like Zooms to the public, not just with the council people, the people that showed up, but what can you do one-on-one, on an ongoing, you know, Wednesday with the mayor, or every Wednesday with the mayor, maybe the off weeks of Tuesday, city councils are every other, first and third, so you can do the second and fourth. I was trying to think of that, what can I do that reaches more people?
Yes.
Zoom is good, the city's starting to pull back on that now, since they don't have to. They're not recording it. The county's done a great job. You can go to their YouTube channel for years and watch every county commissioner's meeting. The city has chosen not to. In the last couple of workshops in P&Z, they've turned the Zoom off, which to me is going backwards with transparency. I would want to put everything to live forever on a YouTube channel or something like that.
I think that comprehensive plan got everybody, they started to kind of sequester what was going on. And that's my question is how that comprehensive plan is going to play into tax abatements, and I've used the word steering development. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the comprehensive plan, no one has seen the final version even when it was voted on. And we've done freedom of information requests to get the comprehensive plan that should be on the website and denied. So I haven't seen the final comprehensive plan. It's not on the website as of yet. Has anyone seen it? We're looking for it. So the unknown comprehensive plan, I haven't seen it. It does, we have to have a comprehensive plan if we choose to leave it in our charter that dictates we have it. The comprehensive plan, sometimes less is more. And when you're doing something that binds the city to certain actions or promises certain enticements, less is more. And our comprehensive plan has gotten so big, it was written as a school project by city planners from outside this area, and it got so large, to me, you have to be careful because there's so much little details that a developer can come in and demand that you offer. So a comprehensive plan to me would go back to less is more. So we're not bounding ourselves for the next 30 years to
Did you read the thing?
Well, I've read it, actually. I've read it more than once, and it's not easy to read.
No.
But there's a lot of great things. I'm telling you, there's a lot of really good stuff in that comprehensive plan. And they've removed a little bit of the stuff we've objected to, so that's fine. But there's still, you know, we reduced our lot sizes, and they say we didn't do it, but the comprehensive plan, it says you must change zoning to follow the comprehensive plan. 5,000 square foot lots, that's not a big lot, to 2,200. Dense development, inclusionary zoning, development by right. These are all things that still live in the comprehensive plan. So it's a great utopia idea of how you want to rebuild a city, walkable communities, but that doesn't always fit every community. And we've got thrown into a template, I'm going to say the word, liberalish, educational thinking. Let's put Rockport in that mold, and it wasn't written by the people of this town. So the comprehensive plan's a mess. And if I'm mayor, I'm going to push ordinances through that's going to undo the 2,200 square lots.
Good.
I'm going to push ordinance through that's going to say, let's take out to the mayor, and it's a living organism, documented. And we can absolutely, I can put on an agenda, I want to vote, and the city council people will vote yes or no. I want to take out inclusionary zoning in the comprehensive plan. And it's done if they vote. I want to take out the 2,200 square foot lots, and it's out. So I will have to pick away at the bigger issues and hope the council joins me. And the council we have now tends to follow the leader. So if we can change the leader and the narrative, we might change the results of what our council's following right now. So that was a big question on the comprehensive plan. Did you ask someone?
Yeah. I got a question for you with that tax abatement thing, which just scares the hell out of me, and all these freebies and incentives. If that passes, and I have no doubt that it won't pass, can you do something about that to rein that in?
Everything, anything that can be done can be undone. So it's not like it has to go to the Supreme Court to get undone. Everything's passed as a simple ordinance, and it takes a simple ordinance. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes a simple ordinance to undo it. So
Tax abatement policies are baked in for a certain length of time. That doesn't mean that you're, even though you have a policy, you don't have to approve specific agreements under the policy. If the council decides to say no to every particular proposal that comes before them, they can. The policy's got to be there for 2 years.
I would appreciate everybody doing this tax abatement policy that they're pushing through on the mayor's next to last meeting. And it's been talked about and talked about and talked about for years. 20 people, 30 people have spoken at county meetings and city meetings. Ask your council rep or the mayor and email them tonight and say, please hold off on this tax abatement policies until 40% of the city council flips in a month. When they're starting to rush, like the comprehensive plan, they rushed it without seeing the final. They changed the word must in shall, but anyway, there was such a hurry to get some of this stuff done before the election. Chapter 9, the implementation, because you helped me out, the implementation thing, we object to some of the words, you must change zoning, you must do this. So Brad said, you know what, let's change the word must to might. And if you read it, it says you might want to do flooding control, you might want to consider the environment, you might want to. But there was such a hurry to push these big policies through before the election that they passed things that they hadn't even seen results. I mean, who would do that? Change a word, every time that word's in chapter 9, change another word, and nobody read the results of it. But we gotta get this done now and just pass it. They're panicking to run a lot of policies through, and this tax abatement is going to get pushed through unless y'all can talk to your city council reps. It's one of the biggest talking points in my campaign. So if 52% of this room wants to do tax abatements and Tim Jayroe gets elected, he supports them, then that's what they should do. But if 51%, 52% say we agree with Andrew, but we won't know if they don't push back from Tuesday's meeting. Just let the citizens, again, it's let us vote. Let us decide what our talking points are. If you agree with it, then the city council should listen.
Well, I mean, there's nobody here in this room that doesn't want a tax abatement. I mean, we've worked our whole lives, we've dreamed about coming down here, and we realize this is a retirement fishing town community. And we understand the tax bases, which have to do with the infrastructure, the roads, the water, the electricity, and so on and so stuff. But as far as tax abatement, I wouldn't mind a tax abatement on my home. You know, and again, we have built our home, we have put money into the dirt there, just no different than a developer. So, with that being said, we didn't want to move down to Port A. We didn't want to go to Florida. We wanted to come to a somewhat quiet retirement fishing town, because that's pretty much what Rockport has been noted for. We've been coming down here like 23 years every summer. So for now this to be pushed, and just like you said, in the last 9 months, it's been just like they have to get to the goal zone. So that leads me to believe that there's malice on the participants that are pushing the ball forward. They're not even listening to any of the referees. They're not listening to anybody that has any objection to them. We've been going to city council meetings, and we had a good turnout one time. We went back to city council, they had removed all the tables. They had 5 or 6 peace officers there, which I had no problem. I went and introduced to all of them.
So on tax abatements, from a development, I represent a company that I run it for, so we've developed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property in the last 10 years. Their storage facilities, RV parks, they're $5 to $7 million bills. And in the last couple of years, I have made a point to every architect to ask about opportunity zones, ask about tax abatements, and they laugh at me. The owner told me, stop, Andrew, stop, you're embarrassing. I said, I'm proving a point. All these cities we're going to, Baytown, Alvin, Spring, Conroe, they laugh at you when you say, can I get a tax abatement? But I ask them that to get the response that I already know. I've been asked several times in the last week, have I ever asked for a tax abatement? And the answer is, heck yes, just to see if I can get one. Who wouldn't want a tax abatement? But has that tax abatement ever been any deciding factor of whether we were going to go or not? If I were to get $1 million tax abatement over a 10-year period, how much money do you think it costs to build a $7 million facility, operate it, and all the expenses for 10 years? A little bit of, which a lot of the taxpayer money, but that little bit of development cost is not going to make a project viable that isn't viable without that abatement. It's not ever, in my opinion, going to swing a deal to come here or not come here. So why offer it unless you're in a town that just needs development? And I hate to pick on Tivoli, but they could use some tax abatements to get something going.
They can't sell their one building.
Right. So, anyway, I've been asked if I would accept the tax abatement, and absolutely, yes, I would. And just like Larry would accept the tax abatement on his home, but is that fair to y'all if he got that? It's not.
I want to say something more about that comprehensive plan, if you don't mind. If people don't think what happens in Washington doesn't come down to where we are, they really don't get the point. The green energy bill, the urban sprawl, our president's desire to bottle everybody up into tight groups, it's all funded with grants and candy that they give these mayors. Hey, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that. You need a new generator, you need this, you need a tank. Here, have a tank. Whatever they can do to get these small town and large towns to stop the urban sprawl and crowd everybody in together. So when we pass that land use plan, and they slipped it by quick, if you noticed, like I said, it's not even drafted correctly. We've got a big hurdle with that, and I think that's where we need to start, because that is the devil in the detail right there. When they can start, when you buy and invest in property, you have a fundamental free right. We're in a free system. What is it? Free simple ownership. Well, when all of a sudden they can just, Texas A&M or whoever with students can just say, okay, well this swath of land is going to be this, and this swath of land is going to be that, and you're fixed to that, then you have thrown out private property rights out the window. And that's the foundation for this country. And I'm sitting here on ground that we could develop and make a fortune, and I don't want to do it. I mean, and I fought that thing. And we all need to look hard at it. We need to look at Andrew and make him fight it hard, because if we don't stop it, you're not going to, tax abatements aren't going to mean anything, because if they can put whatever they want wherever they want, the developers are going to, they've got the playbook. It's like, hey, guess what? I'm putting 50 houses over here.
Let's talk about development in the good old boy system in this town. And they say at PNC, this future land use, the recommended future use of this land is not binding. It will require coming to P&Z, it's gonna require going through the process, let's talk about one of the last major rezoning things that went through P&Z and went through City Council. And it's on South Rockport, it's 12.837 acres of R1 land. R1 land. All the neighbors around it, the packet had all their letters of concerns about drainage and landscaping and values of their homes. It's 12.1 acres, 12.387, I think, 12.83, anyways, 12.8 acres of R1 single family land that Mark Orr brought to the P&Z and twice to the City Council. I was the only one that got spoke against it. The packet, you normally see drawings, renditions and stuff, says to date, Marker has not turned in a single documentation. We have no idea the number of RV spots or amenities. So I got up and spoke and said, I don't care if you are Marker, do your homework. Because I have to spend, we went to Portland, we're building a storage facility. We went $60,000 into architectural and working with the city staff to even get to a P&Z. So what happens to all the process that's going to protect us from these developers? Went to P&Z, slid through there. 2 meetings, slid through there. Matter of fact, I got up and spoke and said, this isn't right. We don't know if it's 1 or 122, and I've got an RV park that's 12.8 acres, and you can put 122 spots on it. Not one city council person asked a question, the mayor didn't ask a question, Mark didn't get up to speak, and it passed. So if you think, when they say you're protected from future land use recommendations because of the process, if you're a good old boy, you're gonna get what you want. And I sat there in the mayor's and said, what do these tax abatements and stuff in this town get you? And I called him out, I said, you got a $1,000 donation for this, you got a $1,000 donation for that, you got $1,000, I said, it's political payback. I talked to Mark outside. I said, Mark, I used to work for, I said, I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the process. I said, you know and I know if Andrew Kane had asked for this 12.8 acres to be an RV park, the answer is no, with the homework, with the homework. And that's the difference of this tight group of people we have. It's
corrupt.
It's corrupt. I talked to my architect, and the mayor said, Andrew, this is how we always do it. I said, no. I talked to my architect who's 75 years old and he wants to retire, we won't let him. He's the one that talks to city council. Never in his life has he heard of anyone ever going from an R1 to an industry like storage or an RV park without putting up a battle. And it just slipped through there. So you've got to get the right people on the right committees, which in the right positions that are asked questions. And that's all I've done is ask questions. I don't always have the right questions, but it's a fair question. I don't always have the right answers, but at least I'm trying to get a conversation going and hoping it spurs more, but I've got to get listened to. So don't trust when they tell you this is just a recommendation, that the process will save you. I felt sad for the property owners that wrote in, but they didn't show up at the meeting either, but they probably don't want to get disparaged either. So, but they didn't show up and defend themselves. They should have showed up at that meeting. They didn't, but they trusted that their council rep or the other commissioners would have asked a question for him. He didn't get up and speak. It went through. I was shocked.
Well, master plans generally blend stuff gradually and don't just throw something right in the middle, and that's what has my concern. It's just like that. We throw RVs in the middle of a single-family residence area. That's just,
I don't want to talk about RV parks real quick. That property can be done right. A project can be done right because RVs do bring heads to the town. They bring in shopping vacationers. I mean, they bring in affordable housing for younger people. People want to save money and build a house. They live in RVs. People want to work in the industry south of us. They bring their RVs and they spend a lot of money in town. So RVs have a lot of great benefits, and that might be a great project for their. My objection was that stormwater wasn't addressed and spelled out to the citizens. The landscaping, the trees, the traffic flows, the things that we would normally want to see before we rezone, none was brought up. And his answer to me was, I didn't want to spend the money unless they're going to give me the zone. And I was like, well, of course. But I would never get away with this. And he told me, you're right, you wouldn't. I can't. They trust me.
Well, the whole thing too, it's asinine to me that the cart is being put way before the horse, because
we've had infrastructure, drainage problems, all this stuff, and they're talking about putting more density and, you know, not fixing the problems that we have and try to grow responsibly to be able to account for any future growth that we are having, but to fix the stuff, the roads, big potholes you could fall down and drown in. You know, it just seems to me that it's really crazy that those things aren't being addressed, and they're just pushing so hard on getting more and more and more smaller lots, this and that, on top of each other when they're not fixing the problems that we have already, that's already strained.
And that's a good point. People ask me like I'm some industry expert, Andrew, how are you gonna fix our flood? And just to be honest with you, there's some areas we just can't fix your flood. But there's a lot of areas that we can at least mow the 10-foot cattails down. We can clean out the drainage ditches. We can clean out the culverts. There's a lot of things that we're not doing that we can start doing. And I was wandering Oaks off of Pearl Point, and so you can drive right down off Pearl, right past Pearl Point, that subdivision. And I promise you, from the highway it's mowed this way, from the houses it's mowed this way, there's a 20-foot swath, 10 to 15-foot grass, all the way down that highway. And I was talking to the residents, they said, somebody needs to mow the ditch. It's like 10 years worth of growth in that ditch. And I'm not exaggerating, it's taller than these ceilings. Those are the easy things that we can fix. I can't.
You would need more than $42,000 in the budget for drainage maintenance.
I mean, go by the
$42,000.
some of the drainage trucks on Walmart's, and there's trees growing.
And I do want to say something on that. The drainage in Rockport was built with engineers on the ground. So if the drainage that was built years ago that actually worked for the community when it was installed was maintained properly, it would still flow to the bay, it would still work properly. I mean, once you start backing the cattails and silt and trash and so on and so forth, it bottlenecks everything, and then water takes a path of least resistance, and it's going to find new paths of flow, and then it starts eroding those other areas, and that's why you have massive flooding.
And you'll hear
this maintained, it would be a lot better than what
it took a flood before the politicians said we need to do drainage. Now all the politicians are saying we need to do drainage, but we know a couple of years ago when residents were asking about drainage, especially for the country club, and warning of a flood, they were ignored. And the money went to a developer for sewer main. That's a fact. It's on the city record. I don't think the captain of the ship gets credit for how many people he puts in the lifeboat after he sinks it. So everybody's talking drainage now. The problem is, where were they talking 3 years ago when we were paying $400,000 for a development for sewer instead of putting that money towards the drainage?
Well, I mean,
$1,000
for a trolley.
How do you lose $4.5 million that is devoted to road and drainage that you didn't even know was still there unspent? It's crazy.
I mean, it's hard to steal money on this people. I've been in drainage control and stuff pretty much. I've been in utilities my whole life. It's hard to steal money from maintenance projects, but it's a lot easier to skim off money when you have an $8 million drainage project. A lot of times those projects aren't needed. It's because of the lack of maintenance and the lack of effort to be able to create a problem, so then you can come in with a giant money solution, which has to do with taxpayers' money, that assist in other areas that shouldn't have ever been assisted in had you maintained your project.
So Larry's right.
Like
I thought that same thing.
I mean, if you paint your house and you take care of the exterior of it, then you never have no wood rot, you won't have no dry termites. You're not going to have the catastrophic problems with your home if you maintain it. And it's just like anything to do with your infrastructure. My other big problem is here, and I am a welder by trade, so we have a big problem with gas utility lines. And just like with the water, Rockport wants to provide that service and get a percentage of every cubic foot of gas that's sold. Well, in turn, they're supposed to put forth some of that to maintain it. We do live in a very corrosive environment. Very seldom do your gas lines have problems inside your house, but the mains that carry the high pressure, because it's regulated once you get to your house to like 4 ounces, but it's going to run 50 pounds or even more out in the street. So when you have a leak in the street, gas is just like water. It's going to find the path of least restriction. It's going to go alongside the line, come up inside your house, and then your water heater kicks on, your gas or whatever lighting, and then you have a problem. So there's a lot of maintenance stuff, and she had mentioned it also. They're not paying attention to what the real tax dollars are designed for, which is to take care of the community. Let the growth and stuff work for itself. Pearl Apartments should have provided the money for that. They go into a sewer plant that's gonna need about at least $8 million worth of expansion. In that last rain, they had raw sewage just running down Pearl Street into the bay. I mean, there's a lot of problems within the community, but the tax base is strong enough where with the right leadership and the right care, the community could really thrive and be what it is. And they don't really look at what, there's a lot of us here that have brought a lot of hearts and souls, so they have a lot of people that have worked their whole lives that could actually communicate and put that on the ground. And it's a snub effect when you go to city council. So that really has to change.
Look, I'm not closing, you can ask more questions, but that's, if I'm elected mayor, what will I do for you? I will actually reach out and try to find if we have a problem building countertops. Let's find experts that retired in this town that have built countertops. Is it a drainage problem, an airport issue, a street? This town is full of talented people, and if I'm elected as your mayor, I'm gonna actively reach out for our citizens to give me advice and come to city council and invite them to speak, whether they've signed up or not, invite them to give them a mic. If they need an extra minute versus 3, give them 2. If they're worth what they have to say is worth hearing. I'm not gonna just trust the same group of advisors over and over. I'm gonna reach out. Every topic takes different talents, and you have to search the whole community, and you have to give them the feeling of, like I'll pick on Jane. If I'm not coming to her asking a question, she might not come offer me. But if we reach out and find her, she may step up and give us advice. So elected me mayor just means that I'm going to do my best to reach out to all of y'all and all your neighbors on every topic and say, bring your expertise in. We've got open ears in this city. We need your input, and then listen to them. And if my ideas are wrong, and I started to go A, B, C, D, and ask my employees, I said, that policy I gave you a month ago didn't work out so well. Thanks for trying. I was wrong. I'm gonna be wrong again, but I at least can admit this is a mistake. Stop. Let's do something different. We don't have to go down the same trail to save face and pride for being wrong, especially when you've had options to do better. So I'm not the miracle worker can fix your drainage. I love that question. What are you gonna do to fix it? I don't know. I don't have the resources to even tell you. What are you gonna do to fix our budget? I haven't seen anything. It's called ask for free information, you might not get it. I don't have the questions or the answers yet, but I know how I can get there. And it's just by listening to everybody.
Well, Andrew, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Does anybody have any more questions? I didn't mean to shut you down, but people are kind of looking around. Let's wrap this up, guys. Any questions? Any more comments?
Andrew, one thing you were talking about, I call y'all the watchdogs, and I thank goodness that you watchdogs are around, and that's why I support you. By the way, I'm Tommy Moore. I'm your Navigation District Commissioner at large. If you don't know me.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Todd.
The questions you ask are solid, and we always appreciate them, and you're not afraid to ask those questions. You do the right thing. You and Jeff came after me one day, and it was fun. The first thing I did was thank him for coming after me, right? This is in an email. So, and I was able to dodge him. It was over that day, which was good. But what I look forward to is cooperation with the city. I think we've got a city council that will follow a good lead and this cooperation.
I'll even follow a bed.
Probably aware of the district's problem with the new drainage program and how much they're putting in where. It's urban engineering, we're talking about the same old advisors, and the city manager. We started negotiating, we saw it coming, we knew they were just going to say forget about it. And we saw it coming, and we put the stop on it, and we started negotiating to come up with something. And I can talk about this a little bit later. But when we put the stop to it, we started negotiating with lawyers, okay? And we approved, against my wishes, I voted against it, One, the last agreement that they sent to us, and then they sat on it. But what they never did was give that to city council. The city council never saw our first request. And so the city council has been in the dark as well. It's kind of like, you know, they do you guys. So I see a big change in that. I see a big change in that from the judge.
So what I was talking about is
to work.
The city's got their mind going this way, and they won't listen to another local government's plans. It's adding catch basins, that's it. And that's what I go back to. It's okay to stop and go, hang on, what did you have to say? Let me value that. So what's happened between the National and the city is costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars in contract delays and fees, making us look bad in the newspaper. It's splitting the citizens and dividing us further, when all we need is the government to sit down, go in a room, and work this out. We're paying the bill. Stop wasting our tax dollars.
Those projects have had zero environmental studies, zero environmental permits. They don't have them. They haven't given it to us. It's going to get stopped.
It has to, yeah.
And I'm willing to die on that hill.
No,
It's
no,
got to
you
get
need
stopped. And it's going to cost millions to flip this back around. We've been meeting with the state, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
We all need to get behind Andrew and get more voters, because if we don't get out there and hit the streets and talk to our friends, we're not gonna get this man elected, and we're gonna have 10 more years of the good old boy.
And government, man, that's my biggest